On July 13, 1985, dozens of musicians took the Live Aid stages to raise money for Ethiopian famine relief. But what was the Woodstock of the 80s actually like? In 1984, rock star Bob Geldof was watching BBC News and was horrified by a report on the ongoing famine in Ethiopia. By the end of that year, an estimated 1 million people in the African nation had died of starvation.
32 million human beings dying of hunger in a world of surplus food.
Upset, agitated, and wanting to help, Geldof worked his connections and, together with Midge Ure of the band Ultravox, wrote Do They Know It's Christmas? Next, Geldof and Ure recruited the UK's biggest acts of the day, including Bono, Sting, Duran Duran, and George Michael, to record it for charity, with the funds going to Band Aid.
I'm Irish. Bob Geldof's Irish. We have the folk memory of famine.
The song was a smash hit, raised £8 million, and became a Christmas staple. The Band Aid project was just the beginning. Pretty soon, Geldof realized he could make a lot more money with a concert, but the executives weren't convinced. But that didn't stop Geldof.
Bob asked me to come to a meeting of the Band Aid Trust and just announced we're doing the concert, Harvey's doing it, see you later.
It worked. In spring 1985, Geldof got concert promoters Harvey Goldsmith and Morris Jones to put together Live Aid, a worldwide telethon and concert with separate shows in London and the US. There were just 5 weeks between the announcement and the show, and too much to negotiate, but that didn't stop Geldof either. If he wanted a band like The Who and didn't have them, he announced them anyway, daring them to refuse.
It was blackmail, really, and I don't think he would deny that he bullied us into doing it.
The choice of Philadelphia as the site of the American show was controversial. As American cities go, Philly's got its good points, but it's not a star. A June 1985 piece in the Scranton Times-Tribune read, "There are 100 US cities that would have died to be the American standing grounds for Live Aid." But the choice was far from random. The organizers had done their due diligence, and Philadelphia actually checked all their boxes. For one, it wasn't hard to get to. There was an international airport nearby for the artists, and it's located halfway between New York and Washington, D.C., which meant fans could get there easily. As venues go, there was JFK Stadium with a capacity of more than 100,000, more than Wembley Stadium in London, which was the site of the European Live Aid. And the cherry on top of the charity concert Sunday was that the city of Philadelphia didn't charge for the use of the stadium, and also picked up the tab for security and cleanup. Brotherly love indeed. Queen's performance at Live Aid was probably the most memorable music festival mini-set in rock history. The set is so legendary that 36% of poll respondents say it's the iconic concert they most wish they could have seen. And the whole thing was just 20 minutes long. Singer Freddie Mercury absolutely dominated, belting his way through tightly constructed iterations of Queen's classics Bohemian Rhapsody and Radio Gaga, giving the crowd the full Queen concert experience. Before starting up a newer song, Hammer to Fall, Mercury invited the audience to participate in AO, a joyful call and response that was a quintessential part of a Queen live show. While Queen was well liked at the time, by 1985 they were considered a little passé. Not after Live Aid, though. That set reminded the world that Queen and Freddie Mercury were still a tremendous live act.
Good evening!
Now, it must have been a huge surprise when Led Zeppelin took the stage during Live Aid Philadelphia. There'd been no mention of a Zeppelin reunion. The band had broken up in 1980 after the death of drummer John Bonham. The group, with Phil Collins and Tony Thompson of Chic on drums, played a 22-minute set opening with rock and roll. Yeah, no kidding. For lead singer Robert Plant, it had been too long. He was in no shape for the gig. He later told Rolling Stone, "I was hoarse. I'd done 3 gigs on the trot before I got to Live Aid. We rehearsed in the afternoon, and by the time I got on stage, my voice was long gone." When Plant says the band rehearsed, that depends on what you consider rehearsal. They got together for less than an hour on the day of the performance without Collins. They were pretty much winging it. Once they got on stage, Jimmy Page was given a guitar that hadn't been properly tuned, but he couldn't tell because the monitors weren't working. He recalled, "My main memories really were of total panic." Collins remembered Page a little differently, as in he was drunk. In his book, Not Dead Yet, Collins recalled taking the stage, writing, "It's immediately obvious that Jimmy is, shall we say, edgy. It's only later when I watch the clip that I see him dribbling on stage, actual saliva, and he can barely stand up as he's playing."
A lot of people out there are going, Did I really just see that?
In fact, Led Zeppelin were so unhappy with their performance that day that they refused to allow it to be rebroadcast. At the time of Live Aid, Collins' solo career was at its peak, and he wanted to help with the show in whatever way he could, but there was an issue. The show's promoter, Bill Graham, wasn't a fan. Collins didn't let that stop him. He'd played drums on some of Plant's solo albums, so he asked the singer to help him get a spot in the lineup. The Zeppelin reunion was actually Collins' idea. But when Sting asked him to play in his set at Wembley, Collins actually made it happen. UK festival producer Harvey Goldsmith arranged for Collins to take the Concorde, a high-speed supersonic jet, after his London performance.
I got onto British Airways. I said, I've got the most fantastic idea for you to promote Concorde.
He made it to Philadelphia in time to join Plant and Jimmy Page on stage. And that's not all Collins did that day. After he played a set, sang with Sting, made the flight, helped Led Zeppelin briefly reunite, he packed up Eric Clapton during his set too. Formerly the breakout star of Harold Melvin and the Blue Notes, Teddy Pendergrass went solo and became an absolute phenomenon in the world of soul and R&B. He racked up more than a dozen hit singles in the late 1970s and early 1980s, specializing in sultry slow jams like Close the Door, Turn Off the Lights, and Love TKO. But in 1982, Pendergrass lost control of his car and struck a tree with such force that he ended up mostly paralyzed, unable to use his limbs. His recovery was slow and arduous, and Pendergrass stayed out of the public eye for several years. But his appearance at Live Aid was one of the festival's most memorable moments. During soul duo Ashford and Simpson's set, Nick Ashford announced the special guest. The song was Diana Ross's Reach Out and Touch Somebody's Hand, and the guest was Teddy Pendergrass.
Make this world a better place.
Philadelphia was his hometown, and when he came on stage in his wheelchair, the crowd gave him a thunderous ovation. Live Aid got started at noon, London time, with Rockin' All Over the World by Status Quo, so that's 7 a.m. Eastern. Hours later, when the show kicked off in Philadelphia, the first performer was a complete unknown, David Weinstein, an 18-year-old musician who performed under the name Bernard Watson. After graduating from high school in Miami a few weeks earlier, he drove northeast to see friends and planted himself in Philadelphia with one goal in mind: get Bill Graham to put him in the festival lineup.
He believes in going after what he wants, and obviously he's done that.
To show he was serious, Weinstein made a demo of a few original songs, singing and accompanying himself on acoustic guitar. For 10 days, he stationed himself outside JFK Stadium, sleeping in his car and keeping an eye out for Graham. When he finally spotted him, he handed over the tape and went back to his car. That's where Graham found him. He said Watson was a little rough for Live Aid. But after sending a Rolling Stone reporter to profile him and a prime rib dinner, Graham gave Weinstein, or Watson, the chance to play in front of 100,000 people at the start of Live Aid just before 9 a.m.
Honestly, can you imagine one of your most famous moments of your life and your activism? You've got a mullet.
When U2 was booked to play Live Aid, they were a group of rising stars with a modest UK following and an almost underground couple of hits in the US market. Like it was cool if you knew New Year's Day or Sunday Bloody Sunday. Live Aid changed that. Their set was electric. It instantly elevated the band's profile, and just a couple of years later, they would be arguably the biggest band on the planet.
Something went on at Live Aid that is still with us.
U2 played just 2 songs during its slot, the aforementioned Sunday Bloody Sunday and Bad. Although the latter was a freewheeling jam that went on for 12 minutes and included bits of the Rolling Stones' Ruby Tuesday. Lead singer Bono nailed the moment, working the crowd like a superstar we now know he is. And he may have also helped save a life, leaping off stage to a fenced-off area to convince security to lift a young woman over a barricade. Not only did he maybe save her that day, the future rock god then danced with her and gave her a kiss on the cheek. Live Aid was turning out to be one of the biggest broadcasts in history. Speaking to the New York Times in the weeks leading up to the show, Geldof admitted, "The logistics of this thing are staggering."
We have this television running order which dictates things to the minute and a half. Rock and roll never works to the minute and a half. Rock and roll works when they're ready.
Let's review. The festival was a continuous multi-act concert held in 2 cities, first in London, then picking up in Philadelphia over 17 hours. Thanks to the use of 13 military-grade satellites, it was set to reach 1.9 billion potential viewers, who also saw performances from other countries, including the Soviet Union, which allowed a live rock show on its state-run airwaves for the first time. In all, Live Aid was seen in about 150 countries.
Thank you very much. I just realized today is the best day in my life.
In the US, MTV aired all 17 hours from London and Philadelphia. For households that hadn't yet signed up for cable, which was still new and considered expensive, ABC aired a 3-hour portion in primetime, and most of the day was carried on ABC radio affiliates. But the point of the whole thing was to raise funds.
And all these people are not playing for the good of their health, they're playing for the good of other people's health. So get your money out now!
Organizers had convinced AT&T to donate free of charge a 1-800 number that viewers could call to donate, with 1,100 operators standing by.
But if you're going to it up, you may as well do it with 2 billion people watching you.
The bigger the concerts, the greater the chance for technical disaster. And since Live Aid was one of the biggest concerts ever, there were some sizable mishaps. Crosby, Stills, and Nash, whose sound depended on tight vocal harmony, were called out for singing out of tune. Just like with Zeppelin, the monitors weren't working, so the singers couldn't hear each other. When The Who took the stage, the satellite uplink failed during 2 of the 4 songs. During a spontaneous performance of the protest anthem Blowin' in the Wind, Bob Dylan broke a guitar string. The Rolling Stones' Ronnie Wood, who was backing him up, gave Dylan his guitar, then played air guitar for an awkward amount of time before a tech brought him a new instrument. And finally, when Paul McCartney hit the stage at Wembley, the sound system went out entirely.
If you listen to the tapes, you'll suddenly hear the crowd just pick up and sing it.
Beyond just having a good time and watching some of the biggest acts in the world, fans had gathered to support Ethiopian famine relief.
Don't go to the pub tonight, please. Stay in and give us the money. There are people dying now.
With all the money collected and counted, Live Aid had raised $125 million. That amount of money could have made an enormous difference toward alleviating the famine. Yes, I said could. You see, instead, the funds virtually disappeared in the months after Live Aid. It wasn't due to run-of-the-mill embezzlement or anything like that. It had been underreported in the UK and the US, but the famine wasn't just the result of a recent drought that decimated the Ethiopian food supply. The country was also embroiled in a civil war, and the head of the ruling party, a dictator named Mengistu Haile Mariam, basically held on to all that money. He spent it on military-grade weapons sold by the Soviet Union, which he then used to put down an uprising against his regime. In a case of truly sick irony, the money from Live Aid was used against the Ethiopians whose lives it was meant to save. Geldof was warned beforehand that this might happen. The humanitarian organization Médecins Sans Frontières, Doctors Without Borders, advised him not to allow Ethiopia to access the money without a reputable distribution system in place. Even today, it remains unclear just how much aid ended up going toward famine relief and how much went elsewhere.